a broadcast from our new Prime Minister. My name's Mike Cashman. Please subscribe to the channel, Britannia Waves the Rules. I've taken the liberty of imagining what our new Prime Minister could say to us. Now, I've imagined this in the context of a new Tory Prime Minister soon in 2022. Some of what's contained in there could also be said by a new Prime Minister after a general election coming from one of the other parties, but this broadcast is specifically what I might hope for from a new Tory Prime Minister. I'm not saying that it's all likely, but I believe that it's all possible and that it's all desirable if we want to set the country on a more honest course. Here we are, your new Prime Minister. Good evening. As your new Prime Minister, and therefore, as I said to the Queen this afternoon, as your public servant, I want to talk to you tonight about how I seek to re-establish the relationship between the British public and your elected politicians. So this is not going to be a party political broadcast. I'm not going to talk about trade, foreign policy, economics or health, though please be in no doubt that the nation's health is a major priority for this government. No, tonight is about the how of government, not about the what. That relationship between the British people and elected politicians has been under stress recently for several unrelated but more or less simultaneous reasons. Questions have been asked about the coronavirus regulations that took away more freedoms than ever before, about the government's obedience to those regulations, about procurements that were taken in emergency conditions. Brexit has been done with agreement of many, but opposition by a substantial number, and this was complicated by the question of which Brexit was to be done. The impact of Brexit on the devolved governments and their authority caused many people to question whether that authority truly was vested in Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland governments. And questions have been asked about standards of behaviour by members of the government and whether the ministerial code had been transgressed. Further, bills were proposed that were seen to be threatening the democratic rights of citizens to protest, to vote, and, where necessary, to hold the government to account. And I make no apology for bringing this forward, having mentioned this clearly in my leadership campaign. In the light of these challenges, and with the intention to ensure a healthy relationship between the British people and elected politicians, I'm now launching 6 major initiatives. Firstly, we will set up an Office of Professional Responsibility for Standards in Public Life, led by a qualified judge with a remit to monitor adherence to the Nolan Principles of Public Integrity, incorporating the Parliamentary Commissioner for Standards, and I will look to this Office of Professional Responsibility for decisions on, for example, breaches of the ministerial code by any minister, including myself. Any question of misleading Parliament will be in the scope of the OPR, the Office of Professional Responsibility. I've consulted constitutional experts as to the maximum authority that I can provide to this OPR, and I've been advised that the best way forward is this. While ultimately final authority rests with the Prime Minister, I hereby pledge to you that throughout my premiership, I will enact every judgment by the OPR, and I urge future Prime Ministers who follow after me to do the same. I have also invited the leaders of the other parliamentary parties in Westminster to an informal roundtable discussion as to how we can ensure that there is an improvement in the tone and informativeness of Prime Minister's questions and other parliamentary exchanges. Secondly, there will be an Office of Public Procurement Responsibility with power to investigate, veto and, if necessary, redress for any unlawful public procurement. It will have the power to act swiftly and decisively. More details of this will follow. Thirdly, the public inquiry into the UK response to coronavirus will begin within the next month. Fourthly, as declared in my leadership campaign, we will pause all legislation that would reduce citizens' right to peacefully protest, to vote, or to hold the government accountable through the courts. Provision to prevent disruption to traffic will continue. But this is no time to take steps which appear to reduce citizens' rights. All this legislation will be reviewed and not progressed until after the next general election. Fifthly, I've written to the leaders of the devolved governments with a proposal to hold regular four-nation summits. These will be held in Wales, Scotland, Northern Ireland and England at different locations. There are, of course, ministerial responsibilities and relevant ministers will attend. But I think that it's important that the leaders meet at regular intervals, face to face, and identify areas of common interest and concern. Even in the case of the absence of the post of Northern Ireland First Minister being fulfilled, we will still invite relevant leaders to these meetings in order that Northern Ireland is not excluded. Sixthly, reasoned and informed debate on public policy will be encouraged and fostered. Social media may have increased interest in political discourse, but has not always improved the quality of it. Citizens' assemblies will be set up to enable matters of public concern to be discussed in a facilitated manner, with evidence, sources and clear reasoning encouraged. These can be televised. The conclusions will not have the force of law, but ministers will be required to explain how they have responded to the major issues raised and reported at citizens' assemblies. I will, by the way, be seeking to emphasise the importance in government decision-making being based on sound evidence. And the results of any market research undertaken with public money will be fully publicly available. If a political party, mine or any other, wishes to conduct market research on a confidential basis, that party is of course entitled to do that, with party funding, not with public money. In conclusion, as I said at the start, this broadcast is not about the what of government policy, but about the how. Rest assured that I take our responsibilities as this country's government very seriously. The UK and the world has changed so radically since 2019 that in 2022 I believe there is a need to look again at the policies put forward in 2019. We will undertake a wide-ranging review of our party's policies. At my discussions with other party leaders, I'd therefore like to explore whether there is a consensus for a general election in 2023, so that whichever party is successful, and of course I hope to have your support, but whichever party is successful, we can all set a new course for the UK from 2023 onwards. I'm here as your servant. Thank you for watching this broadcast. primeminister.gov.uk is open now for your online responses, but I encourage you also to engage in discussion with your local MP and in due course in the new citizens' assemblies. Thank you. So, I don't, of course, have delusions of grandeur. I'm not going to stand for Parliament, and I don't imagine myself to be a future Prime Minister. But I chose this way of expressing some thoughts about how we could manage to see a real reset in the relationship between the public and the politicians. And I've, as I said, put that forward as what a new Tory Prime Minister could do. Obviously, a new Prime Minister from another party after a general election could make a similar broadcast. Some aspects of it would not be exactly as I've put there. But on the other hand, it probably won't happen exactly as I've outlined in the broadcast anyway. Let me have your thoughts and do subscribe to the channel. Thank you.